of making shoes on its own. Today, if you go to Agege and you ask for Aroni Bata, they will take you to Razak's shops. And when Razak won the award in 2008, he used that money and got another place for himself, and you can imagine what that guy is doing. That's the kind of award we are talking about. Or about Ibobo, the guy we discovered in Delta State. There are talents in this country. That guy actually builds auto vehicles. You're going to see the picture of what he's done. If this guy was to be in China, he's going to be locked up somewhere. And they're going to maximize the opportunity that is in his mind. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Nigerian child today. I want us to know that a child with a purpose can defeat great men. And the reason we are gathered here tonight is because of these children. Tonight we're going to see 3 key winners who have emerged after a thorough screening processes. We have the research stage, we have the screening process, and then we have the panel of judges. Our panel of judges, like you know, are men, like they say, of integrity. We put them together because we know you cannot tell them what you want, but rather they decide what should be. And tonight, we're going to witness some of the most interesting stories we've ever heard in the country, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy the rest of this evening. Thank you very much.
We'll move on now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to invite the spirit of David. They're going to give us a special presentation. Come on.
You told me that the land is green. Hey, yeah. The land is green. It's green. Oh, oh. The land is green. It's green. Can't you see? The land is green. It's green. Oh, oh. The land is green. It's green. Can't you see? The land is green. It's green. Oh, oh. The land is green, it's green, can't you see? I can see all the harvest is ready, 'cause he told me so. It's green and it's all mine.
Now we're going to be watching the documentary on the challenges of the Nigerian child.
The birth of a child marks the beginning of a new life, the hope of the future, the consistent link in the unbroken chain of humanity. In most African communities, childbirth is considered a very important traditional right, an essential social responsibility, a thing of great joy. Several thousands of Africans celebrate the birth of a new baby on a daily basis. The presence of children, as a necessary factor for bringing about large family, is traditionally seen in most African societies as a sign of wealth and prestige. To be childless, therefore, is typically cause for great concern and often pity, a phenomenon which has brought about people giving birth to more children than they can actually take care of. The United States Census Bureau in 2005 put Africa's overall birth rate to an estimate of 35.3 births per 1,000 people, the highest amongst the world's continents. Nigerian birth rate in the same year, however, was estimated at 40.6 births per 1,000 people. According to the same report submitted by UNICEF in 2006, about 6 million of these working children do not attend school at all, while an estimated 1 million children are practically forced to drop out of school due to poverty or because of parents' demand to contribute to the family income.
I found out that some parents, they are not bothered about what they are worth, whether they are in school. You know, because of this economic situation, in the morning, the father will take off to look for the daily bread. The mother will take off for her own business. The children are now left on their own. Sometimes, whether they go to school or not, the parents cannot tell, or because all of them comes back in the evening. So they wouldn't know what the child have been up to all the day, throughout the day. In some cases, it is a question of the economic situation of the family that will force some of these parents to send their children out in the morning to hawk and then come back. Some of them, after hawking, before they will come back to dress up to go to school. Another aspect of it is a peer group. Some of these children learn from, they learn from maybe some other children that are around them. And they instead of going to school in the morning, they dress up in the morning and say they are going to school. Instead of going to school, they'll end up somewhere. And the third aspect of it is the school authorities themselves. I remember during our own days, that's what we call exit card. You don't leave the school compound without an exit card. But these days, such things are not more there. A child can walk into any school and walk out at any time. Nobody checks, nobody bothers them. Some children even have outgrown the teachers and outgrown even the principal, the authorities of the school. They now have gangs. That's why most of the time you hear that we have courts in primary, even in secondary schools.
Although, while some of these children still manage to stay in school and work in their spare time in order to pay school fees, missing out in classes is often inevitable due to work overload.
My father not let me to go to school, and I supposed to be engineer.
In most homes in Nigeria, it's a common sight to see these helpless children engaged as house helps to prosperous urban families. In such cases, these children are further exposed to all sorts of abuse, ranging from sexual molestation to physical assault, as well as moral and psychological torments. While the physical and psychological torments play crucial roles in practically destroying the lives of these innocent children, other health-related hazards are also prevalent. A study conducted by UNICEF in 2001 revealed that most female children forced into early marriages as a result of financial constraints and similar social and economic factors suffer serious health hazards such as vesicovaginal fistula, VVF. Other treatable diseases like malaria, diarrhea, typhoid, malnutrition, vaccine-preventable diseases, VPD, and acute respiratory tract infections, ART, accounted for more than 70% of deaths among these neglected and abused children. Now, with this deplorable condition of these children, won't one safely conclude that the future of Nigerian children is bleak? Well, not necessarily so, because there are still certain levels of hope for the future of the Nigerian child. Nigerian children, like many other children of the world, deserve the right to all the good things in life. They are hopeful, optimistic, and expectant. It is now a crucial challenge for us all to ensure that they fulfill their lofty hopes and aspiration. Now, who takes up the challenge? Dufil Prima, the manufacturer of Indomie noodles, the favorite noodle for children, is one organization that is most concerned with the well-being of the Nigerian children. While the company realizes that there are some walking street children out there who have been able to rise above the challenges and vagaries of their situation, it also believes that such admirable feat should not go unacknowledged and unrewarded. As part of the corporate social responsibility of Dufil Prima, the Hero Award is an initiative that seeks to identify, recognize, and celebrate the act of bravery amongst the Nigerian children while bringing to the fore our timeless values as a people. In spite of all challenges facing these children, they still manage, against all odds, to carve an admirable niche for themselves. They are the Nigerian children. They are young, yet matured.
The next item we want to take on now is a discussion on the plight of the Nigerian child 50 years after independence. I want to call on Tola Baramosi to come and coordinate this particular aspect of this event. A round of applause for him, please.
50 years after independence, is there any hope for the Nigerian child? And first and foremost, I would like to call on Professor Pat Utomi to please make a comment on this topic. A round of applause for him, please.
Let me begin with a word about corporate social responsibility and the work that Dufil Prima Foods is doing here. Now, very often when we talk about corporate social responsibility, it is seen as, well, a bit of giving back. But I think it's much more than that. Besides the fact that our humanity is elevated when we identify that which really lifts all of us up, there is the fact that this kind of effort helps even prepare society better for the growth that profits industry itself. I have had the opportunity of being at previous awards to heroes that are children. And I can assure you that each experience leaves me completely certain of how small I am. Because when you see some of the extraordinary things that young people, so vulnerable, have been able to do, you see the ultimate triumph of the human spirit. And I think that we must salute those who have taken the trouble to go through this. We can, however, do something to prevent these kinds of extraordinary feats that we highlight being the mark of a Nigerian child, in that there is so much want, there is so much need. Essentially, by ensuring that public policy focuses on two fundamental things that lift the people up: education and healthcare. Unfortunately, education and healthcare have both been very poorly managed in our country, and underlies why we are as challenged as we are. But the challenge is getting much worse. A few weeks ago, I was with Professor Peter Ejiofor in Oka, who had written a book about school dropouts in Anambra State, and the challenge of trying to abuse young people to make money. I do think that few crimes are really as bad as the crime of abusing the vulnerable, like children. And it should be a commitment that we all come to ensure that the dignity of the human person, which is violated so much when we abuse children, truly a reflection of the quality of our civilization, is something that we put in the fore of legislation. Education policy tends to focus mainly on tertiary education, at which point is a lost cause. The real focus should be on primary education, because when garbage comes out, only garbage can go into that area we tend to focus in or on when we focus on tertiary education. We also, I think, need to pay particular attention to vocational education, which will empower a lot of young people, no matter what backgrounds they come from, and if they've got what it takes, they will work their way out of the challenges of the state of life that they may find themselves. I do think that it is business that belongs to each and every one of us, not to a few companies that are focused on it as part of their CSR, or even to policymakers. because the future is in all our hands, and I hope we make a difference trying to turn that future to what it should be. Thank you.
Now that takes us to policy formulation. And we have someone to make a comment in that direction in our midst. Please, let's welcome Senator Olorunimbe Mamora. A round of applause for him, please.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start by commending Dufil Foods for putting this together. Let me just say first that the issues that confront us essentially are governance issues, and particularly with respect to human development indices. I am personally challenged as a medical doctor by profession. I'm also challenged as a politician who is involved in formulation of policies in this country. Going through that documentary that we had just some minutes ago, the question to ask is why 50 years after independence we are still grappling with those things that ought to have been in the past. We're talking of vaccine preventable diseases. I thank Dufil because we are celebrating children of Nigeria today, because the challenges are enormous. The most critical years for the growing child, they are the first 5 years of life. And those are the years that these problems, we're talking of polio, we're talking of measles, we're talking of whooping cough, we're talking of tetanus. And these are vaccine preventable problems that we should not be having, we should not be dealing with by now. We're talking of cholera that was ravaging so many states, in fact, an epidemic. These are issues that we cannot solve just through legislation. I'm in the legislature. I do know that some of these issues, yes, they are related to legislations. But no amount of legislation that you put in place without enforcement will make any difference. So while we talk of these legislations, we must also look at enforcement of the legislations. We must look at the right issues. We're talking of nutritional needs of the people, and I thank again Dufil for taking care of that. But the Bible says man shall not live by bread alone. So while taking care of the nutritional needs of the people, we must also look at other things. And that's where we are talking of corporate social responsibility initiative as we are witnessing today. What ought to be cooperative governance has become competitive and destructive competitive governance. These are some of the issues, and that's why I said earlier on that I feel challenged as a politician, and I also feel challenged as a professional. But then, having said this, the fact remains that it is everybody's business. And I'm happy that going through what Dufil gave us, you will see that leadership issue is not just something restricted to some people. Leadership is everybody's business, and leadership starts with action. So all of us are involved, and the challenge before us is to make the difference wherever we find ourselves. Thank you very much.
Now to round up our topic of discussion today, may I call on someone that we all know very well, who is a man of God, and I would like to call on Pastor Tunde Bakare.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Thank you so very much, Dufil Prima Foods, for putting this together. As I watched the documentary, you reminded me of my own childhood. The whole evening has enabled me to touch base with our childhood. A few days ago, I had the president of Nigeria on television saying he had no shoes when he went to school. And I remember that I was rejected at school for having no shoes. But for the initiatives of the likes of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, I will not be here standing today holding microphone and speaking English. That's why policy is critical. And action or ability to back up that policy and enforce it is equally important. It's all a function of leadership. Children today who are being considered heroes, I want to salute you, and I want to thank God for you, your parents and your teachers. Imagine what would have happened to a person like me. In 1967, I was taken to a carpenter's shed to learn carpentry because there was no money to go to school. And I remember all the things that I had to do here in Lagos, going through all kinds of jobs in order to go to school. Thank God for those who think of giving scholarship to such children, and for companies like Duffield, Primer Foods, who think of encouraging heroism in the lives of amongst our children. When we received your letters, one of the reasons why I came is because of my daughter. My daughter loves Indomie. Every time she would say, "Dad, bring me Indomie," and it's as a favorite food of all my children. But I was not as privileged. I didn't even so much go close to cornflakes, talk less of Indomie. But two things, and I'll bring this to a close. In 1974, in spite of all the hurdles that I had to cross, I stood here in Lagos State of Nigeria and had to face a student of King's College in national debate. It was sponsored by the Red Cross of Nigeria and was a national corp. And from a school without a name, I won the cup in 1974. And again in 1978, under the chairmanship of Mrs. Hilda Adefarasi, I was already in university when I was called upon to come and present the legal rights of a Nigerian child. Why did I say this? If companies like Primer Foods, Duffield Primer Foods, and everyone here will accept responsibility to invest in the future of our children, we can bring something home to them. Number one, that men and women are not limited by the circumstances of their birth, by the color of their skin or their gender. They are only limited by the size of their hope. And if they have hope, they can be whatever God has destined them to be. Children will be honored tonight. Congratulations. One word that stands out in heroism is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability, in spite of the fear, to do the right thing. Courage is character under fire. And as you're being honored today, I pray in the days to come, you'll be among those who will lead this nation. All right. Thank you, Duffield Primer Foods, and thank you, our heroes tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've all heard it. It's a collective responsibility. And we are certain that 50 years from now, the Nigerian children that we know today will not be the same. But before we put a close to this topic, may I please ask everyone to rise and give a resounding round of applause to the Nigerian child as I call on Chido to continue on the agenda. A round of applause for the Nigerian child.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us look at the trail on the past winners of this award, especially that of 2009.
Like love and beauty, heroism knows countless definitions but few benchmarks. It ignores fear,